Well, that sucks. A plane went over and I had 4 minutes already on here and I put you on hold. I lost you. I guess I got to start all over. So I'll start with I have no idea what I'm doing. That's kind of the story of my life. Today I went to the courthouse and got my daughter's tag for her car, and I went to got my hands done, which I think they did a really nice job. I never get my hands done because they're old and ugly, and I never wanted to bring attention to them. I don't even have any rings on right now, but I don't know. I think that was pretty. And then I got my feet done. I'm not going to show you my feet, but it looks the same as my hands. Then I went to the Asian restaurant. I wanted to get chop suey, but they told me that they don't do chop suey, and I kind of knew that. So I got wonton soup, which was wonderful, and I got my husband a couple egg rolls, one shrimp and one pork. So then I came home and I ate a whole pint. Was it a pint? No, a whole quart of wonton soup. We usually don't eat that much. We went to Outback yesterday and I ate like a third of my steak. I can't eat much, and it seems funny for me to say that because I've been a good eater most of my life. I've been at least average, usually chunky, and sometimes fat. But now I guess I'm a little bit, I think maybe on the thin side, but when I look down, I don't see thin, I see fat. But if I look in the mirror, I guess because I'm seeing this stuff, I'm not going to get rid of that skin. Anyway, I've been thinking about my life, things that I've done well at, things that I've failed at. I think people tend to do that when they start getting older because, you're not going to be here much longer. And sometimes I lay in bed and talk to God, and I try to think about I'm not trying to convince him, he already knows. I'm just trying to figure out if I've been good enough to go up there, and I kind of reject hell, so I don't know. I guess I kind of more tend to think about purgatory. I hope not. But when I think about my life, I think about, my beginnings. And I think I was a very good kid. Not an excellent kid, but I didn't ever really cause my parents any trauma. I never got in any trouble with the police. I never had any terrible diseases except when I was a baby. I was kind of a sickly baby, and I was in a hospital for 2 or 3 weeks with pneumonia, double pneumonia. But I mean, that wouldn't be my fault. But I pretty much minded. I got sassy with my mother. I tried sassy with my dad once or twice and didn't do that again. My parents were very strict. We got smacked for something minor. Something major, we got spanked pretty hard. And something kind of bad, we got it with a belt. And I got my share of spankings, but I never got in trouble. I didn't drink when I couldn't. I didn't smoke. I didn't ever do drugs. I didn't have sex. I didn't date. I did all of my chores that I had to do. We all had chores, and we got no allowance if we didn't do them. Plus, we got in trouble. I basically I had to dry dishes. My mother washed dishes, I dried them. I vacuumed, I dusted, I didn't like that. And once in a while I would iron my dad's underwear and pillowcases. Why, I don't know. Well, he traveled a lot, and he traveled for business, and I think that the men would share a room, not a bed, but a room. and he wore like those long kind of shorts, and they'd have pictures and stuff on him. And I guess he didn't want them wrinkled because he walked around in his underwear. I saw him in his underwear a lot. But so I was always a little bit fearful of my dad. I loved him. I was very proud of him, and I was closer with him than with my mother. But I was, kind of fearful of him. So I didn't mess with him too much. I didn't get sassy. I mean, I got spankings for doing bad things, but usually not for being sassy. Now, when my mom, she was tiny. She was a beautiful lady. When I was probably about 10 or 11, I guess I was bigger than her already. So sometimes when she'd come at me with a belt or something, I'd grab a pillow and put it up against. I didn't ever hit my mother. I wouldn't do that. But I would defend myself, and, which would tick her off quite a bit. Got sent to my room. And in those days, you didn't have a TV in your room. You didn't have a telephone. You didn't have cell phones. So it was kind of boring, but I did like to read, so I guess I read a lot. But I think between my two brothers and me, I had to have been the easiest child to take care of out of those three. My mother came from a family of 5, and her father, I can't say it on here because things would happen, but he made himself unalive when she was 11. And my father, he had 3 sisters, and his father became unalive when my dad was like 4. So neither one of them really had fathers. And, they grew up during the Depression, so there wasn't a lot of money. My grandmother was from Hungary on my dad's side, and she barely spoke English, but she ended up going to work at Ford Motor Company and just worked in a line, which she made good money. My mother's mother was more educated. My grandfather was a English professor at a technical school in, technical school in Detroit. And when he died, my grandmother was left with 5 children, and one was a baby. So she actually got help from Charles Lindbergh's mother, who was a teacher with my grandfather. She taught English, and he taught chemistry. I'm getting out of the sun. It seems to want to come out. It's still a little bit bright. Anyway, she helped my grandmother until my grandmother went to school, and I'm not sure she took. I think she was a nurse, but I don't really remember her. I was not that close with my mother's side of the family because my father's side was the side that we lived around. We lived with them sometimes, or they lived with us. We lived in my grandmother's home, and I was very close with my father's side. And my mother's family was, my dad was a little bit jealous of my mother having anybody besides him, and he didn't really allow her to go a lot of places. This will make you think about it, how things were when I was growing up. I'm getting this closer because of the light. My father never had a key to the house. My mother had to be there to open that door. And when we became kind of teenagers, my mother, she and her friend, whose husband worked with my dad, they decided to be leaders at a Brownie, for a Brownie troop. And of course I was already in Girl Scouts, but my mother was helping. And my dad came home one day, and my brothers and I were there. And I know we didn't have keys, but I imagine she left a key somewhere, and then we knew how to get in. And he was so mad because she wasn't there. He was kicking pillows around and everything. She never worked, and her duty was to wait on him hand and foot. It's strange today. I know I wouldn't do it. but that's how I grew up, and I think my mother took it out on the kids. But she and my dad fought a lot. We learned a lot of cuss words early in life. But I have to say that my parents, although they weren't loving at all, I never heard I love you, never got kissed, except when I was 19 and coming out of anesthetic. I had my tonsils removed. I felt my mother kiss my forehead. That's the only kiss that I can remember in my whole life from my mother. My father, pretty much the same thing. I don't think he ever kissed. He would pinch your butt a little bit or tap you on the butt, but they never said they love you. My dad got in a fight with my mother one time, and he was calling me to, I think, to get me on his side. I'm getting in that light again. I don't know. I might have to turn everything around because this is kind of irritating. I'll turn it this way. I don't know. I might have to turn around. Anyway, what was I going to say about my dad? Oh, the mind goes so fast. I'm going to be 80 Friday. Can you believe that? Yeah, I can. I remember all 80 years. Yeah, I was talking about my dad didn't have a key to the house. My mother also didn't have a car, except one time because he had an Edsel when he worked at Ford, and he changed companies and went to General Motors. And our Edsel was a good one. Now, some of them weren't good. We had a really good one. We had a Citation. And he knew that he was going to lose a lot of money on it because he always got new cars at least every 2 years, and then later in life he got them every year and sometimes 2 a year. But he kept that Edsel for a while because he didn't want to lose money. Having grown up in the Depression with no father, both my parents were, now there's bugs, both of them were very conscious of money. We lived well, but they lived below their means because they were always afraid to be another Depression. So consequently, they had a nice nest egg when they passed. So that's about my childhood. I got married I had just turned 20 in October, and I got married in December. Mostly because I wanted to get out of the house, but I really never dated much. I didn't date all through high school except for one date, and that was like going downtown Syracuse to a movie. And when I had my first job at the newspaper, I dated a reporter, and then I dated a couple other guys, but and I got engaged to the reporter because I guess that's just what you did back then. I mean, you didn't just date for 10 years and live together. Nobody did. Well, if they did it, I didn't know about it. I was taught that you don't do things, and I never did things, and I barely kissed. So I got married just at 20, and I mean, he was a good man. I really loved him a whole lot. He was a lot like my dad. He didn't really want me to work, but he didn't mind, well, when I didn't have children, but I had my first child a little after 2 years, and I worked at GM with my dad, and so I went on leave, and I did go back to work for about 3 months. My mother babysat, and I would take the baby to her house. And then I got pregnant again, which I didn't know I was pregnant, but these bugs, there's little gnats flying around. I've been reading about them. We're in Alabama, and it said all kinds of bugs. We never really have a lot of bugs. I feel like it got fleas or something. Just little tiny, they almost look like, I can see them in the light. They look like fruit flies. Okay, so, I think I already told you that my husband ran off of the Avon lady, so I got divorced, at 29, almost 30. Well, I would have been 30. They wanted to have the divorce in October, when was it? They were going to have it like by my birthday, October 3rd, October 4th. And I said no, I wanted to have it before I was 30. So I think it was September 30th I had my divorce, which actually today's the anniversary of my first divorce. And that was in 1975. 50 years ago today? Yeah, 50 years ago today I got my first divorce. Well, yay! Although it wasn't a yay. It was the saddest day. It was awful. But I'm not getting into my divorces this time. I just got to thinking about my childhood and then about my parenthood. And I've thought about it so much, maybe the last 10 years, especially that now that my grandchildren have had children, my children have had children, and I see how well they do. And I've come to the conclusion that I was not a good parent. I was not a good mother. I was probably a very bad mother. But at the time, I thought I was doing it well. At the time, I thought I did a very good job. I did what I knew. And even though it was the same things my parents had done and that I hated, I did it. But I did love my children, and surely they know that I always loved them. I told them I loved them. I kissed them and hugged them. I was always affectionate with my kids, but when I married my second husband, my kids were, they were 3, 5, and 7 when I got divorced. It would have been 5, 7, and 9 when I got remarried. So then my stepkids, I had, the kids lived with us. My husband had custody of his children. My second husband had custody of his 3 children. And so when we got married in 1977, our kids were 5, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 13. And we were married for 8 years. So I had 6 kids for 4 years. And then when we moved to Alabama, my oldest stepdaughter decided to go back to her mother because she was like a senior. She didn't want to change schools, and for whatever other reasons, she hadn't talked to her mother for like 4 or 5 years, but she went back to her mother, and it was a bad time because she was kind of scared to go back, and she tried to get her brother and sister to go with her, which was really upsetting to me because I loved my stepkids like I loved my own. And frankly, we would not have moved to Alabama if it hadn't been, for my husband's ex-wife, who was causing a lot of problems at the time. She was married to a lawyer, and she was a legal secretary, and she took us to court a whole lot. And it cost us a lot of money, and I actually liked her when we first married. She seemed to be very nice, but she started making demands on me, and like I worked at Reynolds Aluminum, and I worked 40 hours a week. I had a 3,500 square foot house to take care of, 6 kids to take care of, and she got the 2 smaller children every other week. The oldest one wouldn't go with her, but she called me one time yelling at me and telling me don't ever send her daughter home with a dirty coat, because she had to take her to church and she didn't have another coat. And I said, well, why don't you wash the coat? I said, I've been working all week, and can you imagine how much clothes I had? We did have 2 washers and 2 dryers in our basement. It was a big house. But a lot of clothes with 6 kids and 2 adults, a lot of sheets. We had 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. I mean, it was just a lot of work. I guess that's why I was skinny back then. Anyway, I don't want to denigrate her or anybody else. She had her problems. I had my problems. My husband had his problems. My kids had their problems. But it's just telling things that went on in our lives, why maybe different things happened. And this is 20 minutes, I guess that's okay. So when we went to the lawyer for probably the 4th or 5th time, he said that the best thing that we could do would be to get out of the state. I had moved around a lot, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me. However, if we moved, my kids were not going to have access to their father because he was with the lady that he would marry. Well, he hadn't married her yet. Had he married her? Yeah, he married her by then, but he didn't marry her for a while. But it was going to be hard for them. And we knew that, his wife was going to have access too, but it's just, we couldn't keep going to court all the time. I mean, it was costing us a lot of money and her nothing. And it was for stupid little things, she would, I don't know, I can't remember a lot of things, but we took her to court one time, countersuing because she was suing us. And the court gave us child support of $10 a week. three kids, $10 a week is all she had to pay. And I know she was making good money because I was a legal secretary later on. They make pretty good money. And she was married, but that was okay. But it was just, the court gives a little bit to each side, so that was what we didn't really need the money. But we're just getting tired of getting sued all the time. And it wasn't sued for money. She just would make demands. Like, she called me up one time complaining about not getting any kids, and I said, well, you get them every other week. And then I said, you get them for 3 weeks in the summer. 3 months in the summer, you don't take them. Well, what would I do with them? I said, well, you'd play with them and take them places and have fun with them like I do. But I used to refer to her as Auntie Mom. I know she loved her children, but some people shouldn't have children. They weren't meant to have children, and some people shouldn't have husbands. I think she was one of those that, like my mother, that had children because that was what you did. She was Catholic. A good Catholic woman has children. And, again, I know she loves her children, but she kind of loved herself more. And I don't know if my father ever wanted children. I think they just had kids because that's what you did. My dad was the 1st generation American. My mother was like 3rd generation American. Now, me, growing up, all I could think of is I wanted kids. I wanted babies. I was a babysitter. I started babysitting when I was like 11. And I babysat for brand new babies. I don't know why people would leave a child with a child, but I did. And I just loved kids. I never really wanted a husband. And I've had 4. But I'm really happy with this one. I was happy with the last one. I was very happy with my first one for a while. But like I said, he's a lot like my dad, and it was kind of like being married to my dad. Had to toe the mark. I was like Archie Bunker's wife. When he would call, I'd go running. He cussed a lot, and honest, I never cussed until I was about 27 or 28. But I caught on pretty well, and I could cuss with the best of them now. But I didn't really. I always said I was never going to cuss. I was never going to drink coffee. I was never going to do drugs. I was never going to cuss, drink coffee. Now I can't remember the things I wasn't going to do because I'm doing some of them. But anyway, I don't drink coffee now, but I did for a short time. I do cuss. I never did drugs. I'm scared to death. I know that if I tried anything, I'd be an addict probably after the first time, because I'm an addict to food. Anything that I do, I'm an addict. Any hobby I get, I overdo. I started doing ceramics, and my whole house is full of ceramics, and I gave ceramics to my mother and my ex-husband and kids. I mean, I got into fake plants, and my whole house looked like a jungle. I overdo things, so I know that if I did drugs, I'd be a drug addict. But anyway, I don't know, I guess I've talked about a lot of things, but going back to being a parent, I think that I was a pretty good wife. I think I wasn't a very good picker of husbands. Until now, I got a great one. My last one was my best friend, but that wasn't a romantic marriage. My first one was because we were kids and he wanted to get away from his mother. I wanted to get away from my mother and dad. So, we just got married. Number 2, I have to say, he was a nice man. He needed a mother for his 3 children. I needed a father for my 3 children. We both loved the Brady Bunch. We both loved Sound of Music. So does that make sense? So we got married. And we met Labor Day and we were married in November. So, we didn't really think about it. Can't blame him, can't blame me, can't blame anybody. And, but it is what it is. But I think that I was a good child. I think I loved my children. Oh, I know why I was telling you all that with the children. When I married him, his children loved me as a mom, and I loved them as my kids. And all the time, every time we'd pass each other in a hall or anything, the kids, his kids, my kids, I love you, Mom, and I would have to kiss them and hug them. And I got kind of tired of it because my family never kissed and never hugged. And I don't know, I worked, I had the house and everything, and I just started backing off a little bit because it was just a lot for me. It was wrong. I'm telling you that I was a terrible mom because of it. But I did stop being that affectionate, and I just kind of got a little bit less of a mom and more of like a teacher. And that's what I think about my parents. My parents were very good teachers. I don't think they excelled at being parents, but they taught us about life, and they were really good at that. And they set good examples for so many things. Taught you to pay your bills, taught you to be loyal to your family, to be loyal to the country, to love your neighbor and help people when they need it. So I learned all the good things, but I learned some of the bad things too. I'm feeling something now. I don't know if it's rain. I don't know if birds are pooping on me or what. Nothing looks like poop. And then in my parentage, I think because I got married and divorced, well, the third one wasn't really actually divorced, and he died, but I can't explain it on camera, but he was very, very ill and on disability. And some of you will probably understand, but anyway, I loved him. He was my best friend, but it was being married to your best friend. And this husband is very romantic, and I love him very much, and we've been married 28 years. He's sick now. I'm sick. It is rain. There must be one little bit of cloud, and it's just a few drops, and then there's bugs too. Unless, what could be coming down in little drops? I'm crazy. Can you see me? Because it looks really dark. It usually comes up and says you need light. Light here, but that hurts. I can't sit in that sun. So I guess I have to apologize to my children. It's too late now. I agree. I was a bad mom. But I loved my children very much. I loved you. My children were my life. When you compare my children with my first three husbands, my three children were like 100%. My stepkids were 99 and 44 100%, 100%. And the husbands were kind of low. I just, I guess because the husbands that I had didn't really care about me, they all had an agenda. It was hard for me to love them back. I dearly loved my first, thought he was forever. And even though we fought and yelled and cussed and whatever we did, that's what I knew, because that's what my parents and my aunts and uncles did. And so I thought it was forever. And I don't think I'll ever get over that. I really won't. He's non-living. I know I can't say certain words. All my exes are non-living now. My second husband became non-living last year. He had a terrible cancer, and it was awful. I felt really bad for him. I don't hold grudges to anybody. I hope they didn't hold grudges to me. He and I were together on a jury one time. Well, we weren't picked, we weren't chosen, but I mean, I could be friends with anybody. You know, if you loved them once, you've got to have feelings for them. I don't understand people that hate their exes or hate their stepkids or hate their kids or cousins. I don't hate any of them. Some of them you do better staying away from. Some of them drain you, but I don't hate people. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And I'm a Democrat, but I don't want anything bad to happen in America either. I don't agree with some things people do, but I don't think being unalive or hurt or anything like that helps anything. I just like changes. And I think if you're in a bad marriage, that's why would they have divorce. I don't know. I don't understand these people that unalive their spouses. I could have been at one time, I think, but to me, I just don't understand vengeance. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I'm not here to preach. My son's the preacher. I don't try to hurt anybody. If it's in the heat of a moment and something is said to me that ticks me off, I can tick them back. But after the fact, I don't try to get anybody back. Well, it's not helping anything. What do you get out of it? It's just, I think the best thing you can do if someone's wronged you is to smile at them, hold your head up high, and walk away. Okay? I understand. I don't understand holding a grudge, but a lot of people do. I have people that hold grudges against me, and I'm sorry that they feel that way. But I can't say that there's anybody that I hold a grudge with. And I love all my family, all my cousins, all my exes, all my stepkids I love my children. I love my friends. I pray for everybody at night. My enemies, I do pray for them. I pray to God and ask Him to help them. I ask for peace. I ask that there not be wars anymore. I think that's the worst thing that can happen, is for someone not to get to live their life. It's really terrible when someone gets a disease, especially a child. But it's really terrible for someone to take someone else's life. I can't, I don't understand it. But I do understand being mad at people and not liking things. It becomes we all have a defensive mechanism, and mine didn't kick in until a few years ago. I kind of took a lot of stuff. I was passive to a large degree. I could get riled up and yell at the moment, but I allowed myself to be treated lesser than I should have been. It's my own fault, my own stupidity. I think if you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile. So it was my fault. But I think I'm doing better at this age. And I think I'm smarter, wiser. I don't think I'm better, but I think I'm more well-rounded. I'm not shying backward. You know, I've had some great jobs and worked for some great bosses, and I don't think I've ever cheated anybody. I've always been loyal, even if I didn't like the person I worked for or didn't like the company I worked for. I felt like if I was taking money from them, they deserved my very best. So, and I am proud to pay my taxes to the United States of America. They're not a whole lot anymore because I don't make much anymore. I'm on Social Security, but every year I did my taxes and I was so proud to send that check. How do you think you could live in a free, wonderful country and not pay for it? I never understood people griping about taxes. I mean, the taxes are paying for what we have. We've got more than any other country in the world. And if you don't like the president, you vote for another one. You know, the next time. That's just the way it works. It really is raining now. I'm seeing raindrops. Oh, gosh. I am crazy, but it is raining. It's very lightly rain. The sun's out. There must be a cloud up there, and it's just little raindrops. Either that or somebody's spitting on me and telling me to get the heck off here. So I will. This bad mom, but a better wife, is getting off now. Getting off the phone. I know some of you can be making funny things about that because I'm old, but I'm not stupid. I love you all. Bye-bye, guys.